Something doesn't feel right anymore, does it? You wake up and the air feels heavier. You speak, but the words don't land the same. You scroll, but none of it reaches you. And underneath it all, there's a whisper in your bones. This isn't just you changing. Something much bigger is moving through you. What you're feeling right now isn't anxiety. It's not fatigue, and it's definitely not failure. It's frequency dissonance. Your soul has already stepped into a new timeline. But your mind, your body, your environment, they're still catching up. And that gap between where you were and where you're going, that's the tension you're feeling. No one announced this shift. There were no signs in the sky, no major world event, just a silent click in the cosmic fabric. And now everything familiar feels a little too tight, like you're living inside a story that was never really yours. You're not crazy. You're not collapsing. You're being recalibrated. This video isn't going to predict your future. It's going to decode your present. Because if you've been feeling detached from your own thoughts, repelled by your own habits, or strangely hollow inside routines that used to comfort you, then this isn't confusion. This is clarity. And the old reality? It's not holding because it was never built to carry the version of you that's waking up now. The collapse isn't coming. It already started. And your job now is not to run from it, but to learn how to stand still while the old falls away. What's happening right now isn't something you can see on the news. It's not measurable. It's not even nameable. Because this isn't a surface level shift. It's a structural collapse inside the energetic grid that humanity has been unconsciously living in for lifetimes. The reason so many people feel off, tired, or strangely disconnected from themselves is because the resonance field of the planet is no longer tolerating falseness. Not just lies or deception in the obvious sense, but subtle distortions. Outdated identities, unconscious agreements, egoic attachments masked as purpose, relationships that are energetically expired but emotionally familiar. And so, without warning, the field started breaking apart the illusions. But here's what makes it difficult. It doesn't break them loudly. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It moves like a fog you can't trace, like a hum behind your thoughts, like a knowing that everything is changing, even though nothing external has shifted yet. This is how vibrational collapse begins. You might feel a constant restlessness without direction, waves of grief for things you can't explain, sudden repulsion to people you once adored, the urge to isolate, sleep, or purge, a deep craving for truth, but no clarity yet on what truth looks like. That's not dysfunction. That's your energetic architecture detaching from a collapsing system. Because the frequency that held your life together until now, your thoughts, your habits, your goals, even your relationships, was built inside an energetic template that no longer exists. And the moment your soul recognizes this, it begins withdrawing from the false scaffolding. It's not sabotage. It's safety. You are being pulled away from what can no longer hold your expansion. This is why old dreams are falling flat, why certain places now feel intolerable, why the things you used to chase suddenly seem hollow. You're not losing your ambition. You're shedding your conditioning because you've outgrown a timeline that never knew who you really were. And now, a new field is opening. But here's the truth. You can't build the new using materials of the old. That's why this collapse feels so final. Because it is. Not a punishment, a preparation. A void is being made. Not to take from you, but to clear space for the version of you the universe has already started calling forward. The kind of collapse you're moving through isn't something that happens outside of you. It happens in silence, in shadow, in the sacred chambers of your inner structure. This isn't the breaking of your life. It's the unraveling of the energetic agreements you made to survive in a world that no longer fits who you're becoming. Let's call this what it really is, a vibrational deconstruction. And no, you didn't trigger it by mistake. This isn't a punishment for overthinking or a sign you took a wrong turn. This is what happens when your soul calls for congruence. And the universe answers. But not with ease. Not with comfort. With contrast. You see, before any real alignment can occur, there has to be collapse. Not to destroy, but to clear out everything built on distortion. Identities based on approval. Goals built on fear of inadequacy. Relationships rooted in obligation instead of resonance. Coping mechanisms disguised as confidence. Patterns that helped you feel safe, but now keep you small. These are the walls that start to crumble when a true frequency upgrade begins. And here's what makes it even more intense. Your nervous system wasn't built for truth. It was trained for safety, for consistency, for predictability, even if it meant pain. So now that truth is surfacing, your body doesn't recognize it as freedom. It interprets it as threat. That's why you're tired. That's why you're confused. That's why you keep asking, why do I feel like I'm losing everything? Because you are, but only the version of everything that was held together by force, fear, and fragments. Let's go deeper. What's collapsing right now is not your life. It's your energetic scaffolding, the structure you built to hold a self that never truly fit. And the symptoms are subtle, but undeniable. You enter rooms and immediately feel drained. You can't tolerate meaningless conversations anymore. Your body reacts with heaviness around certain people. Old goals feel like someone else's story. You're grieving, but you can't name what you're letting go of. This is resonance detachment. Your system is refusing to stay bonded to frequencies that distort your truth. And as each energetic thread is cut, a wave of fatigue, grief, or emptiness follows. Why? Because your field is going through a soul-level untethering. But here's the paradox. Even as everything collapses, something deeper is stabilizing. A new frequency. One that doesn't require you to pretend. One that doesn't ask you to prove. One that doesn't fluctuate based on who's watching. You're not becoming someone better. You're becoming someone clearer. And the clarity comes at a cost. The death of who you thought you needed to be. And that death is sacred. It's the soft burn before the rebirth, the quiet ache before the alignment, the moment when you finally realize the life you were trying to hold together was never aligned in the first place. So what now? You let go. Not recklessly, not with panic, but with presence. Because collapse isn't failure. It's soul architecture in motion. It's your field creating space for coherence. And coherence is the state where everything flows, not from control, but from clarity. You're not behind. You're in the middle of a vibrational reset. And that reset doesn't care about your calendar. It doesn't respond to your plans. It responds only to your willingness to release what no longer resonates. So if your days feel disjointed, if your thoughts feel like echoes from a version of you that's fading, if your body wants rest, solitude, silence, that's not dysfunction. That's sacred instruction. Obey it. Because the version of you that's rising on the other side of this collapse won't need to ask for direction. They will be the direction. When a collapse begins at the vibrational level, it doesn't knock on your door with labels or clarity. It moves like a silent current, dissolving the scaffolding your identity was built on. And unless you've walked through it before, it can feel like everything is falling apart. But it's not. What's truly happening is that everything false is being removed. There are 5 core phases to this process. Most people don't realize they're in it until phase 3. But once you understand the map, you stop panicking. You stop forcing the pieces to fit. Because now, you know, you're not broken, you're realigning. Phase 1, dissonance. This is when the static starts. You look at your life and it still works, but it no longer feels like yours. The job, the relationship, the daily habits, they all continue as normal. But something in your chest tightens. Something in your gut recoils. You start asking, why does this feel like I'm playing a role? That's not confusion. That's your soul whispering, we're not in resonance anymore. It's not about burning your life down. It's about recognizing where it no longer holds your truth. Phase 2, disconnection. After dissonance comes the withdrawal. This is when your system begins pulling back. You stop engaging in old conversations. You stop caring about what used to define you. You crave stillness, solitude, simplicity. But instead of peace, it feels like emotional flatlining. This is normal. You're not losing your spark. You're entering energetic detox. This is where your soul begins disconnecting the cords you've used to survive, especially the ones rooted in pleasing, performing, or pretending. People may think you're pulling away, and they're right, but it's not personal. It's necessary, because clarity requires space. Phase 3, confrontation. This is the most intense part. Now that you've made space, the buried patterns surface. Old fears you thought you healed reappear. Childhood wounds knock louder than ever. Triggers you thought were gone show up in new costumes. And here's the secret. This is not regression. This is soul-level exposure. Your system isn't trying to break you. It's trying to show you the exact programs that have been distorting your frequency for years. Most people quit here. They go back to what's familiar. They confuse comfort with alignment. But the ones who stay, the ones who witness without running, those are the ones who start to dissolve the false self entirely. Phase 4, refinement. After the confrontation comes the refinement. You begin to make micro decisions differently. You pause before speaking. You stop over-explaining. You no longer need to be understood to feel grounded. This is when your soul takes the lead. You feel lighter, not because life is easier, but because your field is less entangled. You don't react, you choose. You don't justify, you align. And most importantly, you no longer negotiate with distortion. This is not perfection. This is precision. You begin living in small congruencies: how you speak to yourself, how you respond to others, how you choose rest without guilt, how you walk away without needing closure. These are the subtle shifts that build the new foundation. Phase 5, embodiment. The final phase is the quietest. No fanfare, no climax, just peace. You wake up and realize you don't need to be anyone but yourself. You stop checking if people get you. You stop proving that you've healed. You stop chasing outcomes to validate your worth. Why? Because now your being does the talking. You don't need to say much. Your presence says everything. You walk differently. You breathe differently. You feel reality responding to you. Not because you forced it, but because you finally matched it. This is embodiment. And it's not a destination. It's a daily rhythm. You still feel things. You still get shaken. But nothing can pull you back into the old template. Because now your frequency holds the field. And when your frequency stabilizes, your timeline does too. If you're walking through these stages right now, you're not weak. You're not stuck. You're not doing it wrong. You're becoming someone your past self never had the courage to imagine. And no, it doesn't always feel like magic. It feels like mourning, like stillness, like starting over. But what rises from that space is unshakable. You don't need to fix the collapse. You need to stay present inside it. Because this kind of energetic unraveling doesn't respond to strategy. It responds to sovereignty. And sovereignty isn't about control. It's about containment. The ability to hold your field when everything familiar begins to fall away. Here's the truth. Your nervous system cannot hold a new timeline with the tools of the old. So now you must build new containers. Simple, repeatable, energetically intelligent. Not performance. Practice. Below are 7 powerful ways to hold your frequency steady inside this collapse. Tools not to escape the shift, but to anchor it. 1. Claim your field within the first 5 minutes of waking. Before you scroll, speak, or absorb any outside energy, return to your own. Sit on the edge of your bed. Place a hand over your heart and one on your belly. Breathe deep and say, I reclaim my field. I return to my rhythm. Today, I walk only in frequencies that serve my truth. This is not affirmation. This is directional programming. It tells your body, we're leading the day, no longer reacting to it. 2. Let your exhaustion speak. This kind of fatigue isn't solved by sleep. It's the weight of emotional layers unraveling from your field. Instead of fighting it, listen to it. When your body says rest, don't argue. Ask yourself, what part of me am I still trying to perform for? Then pause. Stop performing. Let the collapse move through without resistance. Because rest isn't weakness. In collapse, it's strategy. 3. Simplify. Ruthlessly. Right now, complexity will fragment your nervous system. Audit your digital space. Unsubscribe, unfollow, mute anything that feels chaotic or performative. Audit your environment. Put away objects tied to identities you've outgrown. Clear clutter. Add stillness. Audit your calendar. Cancel one non-essential obligation this week. Give your future self space to breathe into alignment. Because simplification isn't laziness, it's energetic refinement. 4. Practice the art of non-reaction. Not everything requires your engagement. In times of collapse, the ego seeks stimulation to feel alive, conflict, noise, movement. But the soul seeks stillness. So when friction rises, pause. Don't answer the message immediately. Don't explain your boundaries. Don't fix the discomfort. Just ask, is this worth my frequency? Because sometimes power isn't in your response. It's in your absence. Now 5. Nighttime energy reset. Ritual before bed, release the energetic residue of the day. You cannot carry collapse into sleep and expect integration. Sit up in bed. Close your eyes. Say out loud, I release what I absorbed. I return what is not mine. I allow what needs to dissolve to leave now. Visualize your body shedding static, distortions, noise. See your field glowing in quiet neutrality. Then sleep, not to escape, but to receive the new template forming beneath the surface. 6. Let one thing die every day. If you're collapsing, let the collapse finish what it came to do. Ask yourself, what thought, habit, attachment, or identity am I clinging to today just because it's familiar? Then release it. Delete the app. Say the truth. Cancel the obligation. Throw away the object. End the cycle. One small death per day. Because every time you let go of something not aligned, you signal to the universe, I am no longer available for what fragments me. 7. Speak the new frequency into form. Language is frequency. Every word you say is a signal. And in collapse, your words either recreate the old or shape the new. Stop saying, I'm so lost. I don't know who I am. Nothing's working. I can't handle this. Start saying, I'm remembering. I'm releasing. I'm refining. I trust what's dissolving. This isn't toxic positivity. This is energetic maturity. Because what you declare, your nervous system follows. And what your nervous system normalizes becomes your next baseline. These are your tools now, not rules, not rituals for performance, but anchors. Because when collapse comes, it's not your job to hold the illusion together. It's your job to hold yourself while it breaks. Let the old fall. Let the new hum quietly beneath it. And remind yourself every single day, I don't need to see the new yet. I just need to stop rebuilding the old. If you made it here, it means you didn't run from the collapse. You didn't numb out. You didn't distract yourself. You stayed. Even when it didn't make sense, even when the silence felt louder than the signs, even when your heart said go, but your mind screamed, hold on. That's not weakness. That's spiritual stamina. And very few have it. The truth is, what's falling apart was never truly stable. And what's forming now won't need force to sustain itself. It will fit. It will breathe with you. It will hold your full truth, not just the edited version. Because you're not rebuilding from performance anymore. You're rebuilding from presence. And in presence, there's no urgency, no need to rush the next step, no need to chase proof or validation, because alignment moves in silence, and silence is a sacred signal. So take one last deep breath. Feel everything that just stirred in you, not to analyze it, but to honor it. You're not fading, you're forming. You're not collapsing, you're clearing. And the version of you that's rising now, they don't need to hustle. They just need to remember. If this message found you exactly when you needed it, trust that it wasn't random. It means you're already inside the shift. Drop a comment. What part of you is collapsing? What are you ready to release? What truth are you choosing to walk with from this moment on? Your voice isn't just a reply. It's an energetic signature. It helps stabilize the field for others walking behind you. Share this video if you know someone who's quietly collapsing in silence. Let them know they're not alone. Let them feel what you just remembered, that what breaks is never bigger than what awakens. Subscribe, not just for content, but for continuity. This space is a signal. Every return is a reconnection. Every video is a mirror. And every time you press play, you're not just watching, you're aligning. So stay close, stay aware, and above all, stay awake.